theory is that if you want to analyze someone's behavior, you have to look at three things. First of all, you have to look at the how do you look at what are the rules that you set? Once you figure that out, then you can figure out his or her behavior in this game. So in terms of geopolitics, just imagine the United States, Iran, Israel, Saudi Arabia as distinct players in the game where they're trying to maximize the outcome against each other. And they will use their own strategy going forward to do so. And that's how I'm able to do it.
Yeah, I know. I remember first hearing about it in that film, Beautiful Mind.
Oh, yes, yes.
What was the guy's name, Nick?
John Nash.
John Nash, yeah. He uses that like whenever he's examining
That's
things
right.
or trying to figure things out, he uses that in there.
You ain't crazy, too.
Yeah, anyway, so best of luck.
Right, thank you.
Best of luck, Professor. Yeah, let's talk about the war in Iran. Let's start there because that's fresh. That's on everybody's mind right now.
Yeah.
Do you think it could be our new Vietnam? Or how are you viewing the war in Iran right now?
Yeah, the best case scenario is that it becomes America's Vietnam. But I think the problem is
That's best case scenario.
Best case scenario, yeah. But I think the problem is that this war is expanding very rapidly. So before, a few months ago, it was limited to a war between Israel, United States, and Iran. But now it's against which is in Iran. There's incredible threats that the war in Ukraine might merge the war in Iran. Because, yes, because what's happened a couple weeks ago is that a Iranian cargo ship was transporting supplies from Russia to Iran through the Caspian Sea was hit by a Ukrainian drone. And since then, the Ukrainians have apologized. But before the game theory, right now, the Ukrainians aren't doing so well in Ukraine. And right now, Russia's fighting war with Christians, but there's much bigger power. In the long term, and war with Christians. So, what Zelensky wants to do is lure America into the war. The best way he can do that is to combine the two fronts. If Russia can supply Iran to the Caspian Sea, then America can confident wait and help America by drones that invaded. So there's a real threat that this is going to emerge, in which case all bets are off, in which case it's World War III. And you can also see the possibility of systems collapse, civilization collapse as well.
All of that from that.
From that. The reason why is that area, Ukraine, the Middle East, it's really the nexus of the heart of the continent. Because that's where the world is.
Ukraine and the Middle East are pretty far from each other. Can you just show me this photo back? How far away are we?
Right. So what I want to do is how far these fronts are, okay? So this war in Ukraine has been going on since 2022, right? It's been 4 years. And most of the fighting is going on in eastern Ukraine, right? Over here. Unfortunately, the war is limited to this front. Now, as of late February, this war in Iran has broken out. And what's been happening is that at first the main conflict was over thermal, right here. But the problem is the entire Middle East depends on certain routes for trade. So Saudi Arabia, Iran, Qatar, UAE, Kuwait, what they do is they take their oil and then they transport it all the way to Sri Lanka, East Asia, and India and Pakistan. So really the oil from the Middle East feeds the economy of Asia. You look at a place like Japan, it has a 3/4 of its oil from over here. In China, it has a 40%, India, 6%. In return, these places will send food over back to the Middle East as well as water because this place is the desert.
Walking around.
Food and water. But now, what we don't appreciate is that there are lots of byproducts of oil production. And one of these byproducts is fertilizer for food. And this fertilizer also transits through the jungle to Africa. And this fertilizer feeds their population. So imagine what happens if this entire area shuts down, right? You can have famine in Africa, you can have economic collapse in East Asia, which would then cause a domino effect where Africa breaks down, you have civil war, revolution in Africa. Then what happens? These migrants get over to Europe. We've already seen that last week. You have 2,000, essentially Morocco, Spain. That's right.
Part of Spain that's actually connected to Morocco.
That's right. That's right. What you can see is how volatile the situation is.
Wow. So It's really a domino effect.
Right. Now, Ukraine
More accurately, Russia and Ukraine have supplied roughly 12% of international very large share of specific grain export markets, about 28 to 30% of globally traded wheat. So there is a huge amount of food calories that comes out there.
That's right.
So that is true.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So thanks so much for fact checking me. But yeah, you know, we can appreciate how the world depends on food, fertilizer, and energy from this area. And so the great threat is that because Russia can supply Iran with the Caspian Sea, the war extends to the Northern Caucasus, which brings in Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan. And then, if that would happen, the entire area is now engulfed in war. Another really critical thing that's been happening these past few weeks is that more and more nations are being brought into this war.
So which we're into the one in the Middle East?
In the Middle East. And the reason why is that for Iran to pressure the United States, what Iran can do is threaten the energy infrastructure of American allies in the Middle East, including Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Iran. What Iran can hold the energy infrastructure of the Middle East hostage. Imagine Saudi Arabia as this huge oil field, right? And it's great in that type of peace because these huge oil fields you can sell it to Japan, China, South Korea, India. But the problem is that a huge oil field is like gasoline. So all they do is take a match, light it on fire, and it pulls up. And Iran can do that with its drone and capabilities. And so Iran is always threatening this. The other issue is that Iran has proxies, meaning allies in the Middle East. There are three major allies. The first are a people called the Houthis, who are these religious, fanatic people who live in the mountains. And they occupy a very huge area
Frank.
called the Bab el Strait.
Bab el Strait?
Yes. So here's the Hormuz. Yes. This is the Bab el Strait. And as you can see, these are the two most critical maritime choke points in the Middle East. And the problem is that the Houthis are in the mountains. It's almost impossible to dislodge them. And because so much maritime shipping requires insurance, any threat of destruction means that insurance companies don't want ships. And that can hold on global trade. So the real fear is that Saudi Arabia will launch a foundation, dislodge and control this choke point. Right? You can imagine a massive alliance form to go against Houthis. Another major conflict is called Hezbollah, which is in Lebanon. And these past few weeks, Israel has been trying to attack Hezbollah. And there's a real threat that this area, Lebanon, breaks out into total war. And right now what Israel is trying to do is assemble an alliance to destroy Hezbollah. This alliance includes Israel, but also includes Syria, and also includes the Lebanese army. And Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran. So Iran, if it sees Hezbollah under threat, then Iran would extend the war in order to help out Hezbollah.
But why would the Lebanese army support Israel? Has there been issues between Israel and Lebanon recently?
Right. So
has there been attacks in Lebanon from Israel?
Right. So Israel is attacking Lebanon because Hezbollah launched attacks against Israel, and Lebanon threatened. Hezbollah is threatening the Suez Canal.
Wait, Israel has been attacking Lebanon, right?
That's right.
Come on, Ruger.
So Hezbollah is not on. And so imagine there are different Syrian groups in Lebanon. They share propaganda. One of these groups is Hezbollah. And Hezbollah is aligned with Israel. They are committed to protecting themselves from Israel. And Israel sees them as a bunch of terrorists that need to be removed. And Hezbollah, the problem with Hezbollah is that it's extremely popular in Lebanon, among the Lebanese people, because unlike the Lebanese government, they're not corrupt. And they provide good services to people.
Understood. So, yeah, sometimes we hear about Hamas, we hear about Hezbollah, but the people there, these countries actually prefer countries that are actually
services to the local population. And unfortunately, the governments in the Middle East, a lot of them have good leaders corrupt, and a lot of leaders sympathetic for these and Microsoft.
Yeah. What kind of blackmail could Mossad be doing, do you feel like, in these spaces? Like, you talk about blackmail, you hear about blackmail a lot.
Yeah.
You hear about blackmail in America a lot.
Yeah.
Like, with the Epstein files and what different places holding this potentially over like $1 million. So I think that is blackmail. I think
well, I mean, the easiest way is to go friends with these people, right? So let's just say you're a leader of Lebanon. Well, you have children. Don't you have your children in the schools?
Come on.
Right? Right. I mean, it's that simple. And so you're a leader of a place like Lebanon, and the entire place is ripe with sectarian violence. There's not much you can do.
the entire place is ripe with what?
Sectarian violence. Sectarian violence.
Sectarian violence?
So guess what? Sectarian.
Okay. Sectarian
Violence.
What are you doing?
And sectarian violence is physical conflict and harm between different religious or political groups within a community or nation. There's a lot of that in Lebanon?
Yeah, because you have a lot of really groups in Lebanon. You have Christian,
He said hi.
Why is that place so important?
Yeah, so that is like,
You hear it all the time. Can you explain in kind of in basic terms of why it's so important?
right, okay. Is the Middle East economy, because like, if you just look at this globe, okay, there's certain countries that are within the Persian Gulf, right? Kuwait, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, basically Dubai. Now, it's important because there's only one way for transport. There's only one passageway. It's like a one-way street, right? So they're going to take their oil and then transport it to Asia, and then what they get in return is water and okay. So that is crucial for survival. If that were to be limited,
Took a few pictures.
then UAE, Qatar,
Recently, Trump spoke up on the news the other day where he said that Iran will be hit very hard. You know, he's always like, we're going to hit it, we're going to hit him in the, head nuts or whatever. We're going to fuck him in the mittens they wear on their head. He's always doing something. But it's like, he said, how is Iran like controlling that effectively right now for themselves, right? And how successful are they being with their management of the Strait of Hormuz right now?
yeah, okay. So, to answer this question, I have explained the concept to you called the escalation ladder. Okay? So, what is escalation ladder? It's a very simple idea, which is, in a fight, emotions create momentum. Okay, so for example, let's just say you and I, we have a fight, I told you, it sucks, I get pissed off, I punch you, right? So, that. And I'm like, okay, then I feel a knife, and I stab you. You feel a knife, you stab me, and you stab me, you feel a knife, me, and then you got that good idea. And how, escalating,
Okay.
and how it should continue escalating if the war continues. So
Escalation involving Iran and Syria.
yeah, so this United States will do that. Okay? So because of war, the United States meaning that if what the United States believes that if I take out your nuclear, now you'll do this, therefore it must strengthen. So the first thing everyone Venezuela a few months back, right? So this is called the capitulation strike.
So they got Maduro.
That's right. Yeah, that's
He
right.
was in jail with 6 times, which is crazy. Okay, yes.
Okay.
But it didn't happen here.
But it didn't happen here, okay? So that's the first strike. Okay?
So they tried it in Iran. They tried to do the decapitation strategy.
Yes.
But it didn't break out in civil war.
That's right. So now what the event does is it strikes back by closing off the roads, right?
But that's because they made a new Ayatollah who took over. Who was that?
The sun.
The sun.
Right, so
the mini sun.
That's okay. We replaced that for Khamenei, the Ayatollah Khamenei. Okay. And then what Iran did, the first thing they were to remove, they started to attack America's allies in the Middle East, including Qatar, Dubai, Iran. Wait,
America did?
no, Iran did.
Okay, so take it back a step.
Okay, all right. So the United States does the capitulation strike, got it. And then Iran punches back. How? By putting pressure on America's allies, right? They attacked Israel, they attacked Dubai, they attacked Qatar. The reason why they did that was the theory that these places give a lot of money to the United States. They invest a lot in the U.S. economy, so therefore they have a lot of leverage over the United States. So they attack, they pressure Trump to end the war. Okay? And so once Iran did that, then that forces the United States to basically have a ceasefire. Because if the war continues, then what would happen is the entire world would lose at least 20% of the global oil supply. And this would possibly create an economic collapse.
So you're saying America had to take a break and rethink about what's going on?
Yeah, because the first strategy is
Morning. Good. Go Bills.
okay, so Trump's entire
Hey, buddy.
there's been a lot on and off. So sometimes it's open, sometimes it's closed. Okay, so now what the American response is now to put more pressure on Iran by trying to strangle the economy. Okay, so how the United States does that is Iran ships 90% of its oil to China, right? So what America did is impose naval blockade in the Arabian Sea to prevent Chinese tankers from reaching Iran and prevent Iranian tankers from reaching China.
So they wanted to stop the flow of oil from Iran to China.
That's right.
And that's how China gets most of its oil.
Well, no, that's China gets its oil from diverse from different countries, but Iran will export 90% of its oil to China. The theory is that if you stop that trade, then Iran cannot pay its soldiers, and the soldiers would rebel, the government would collapse. Okay, so that's the second step. Okay, I tried the capitulation strike. It didn't work, so now I was trying to strangle your economy. And that doesn't work either, right? And so what happens now is that...
Why didn't that work?
Because the Iranians have been under sanctions for the past 30 years. So they are used to being poor, right? Right, so in Los Angeles, if we made gas $10 a day, well, there'll be riots. But in Iran, you take away half their calories. Well, they're used to being poor, so they're much more
used to the
resistant.
sanctions. They're used to living with a government that's like manipulating them and taking advantage of them.
That's right, that's right. So therefore, the Iranians are much more able to bear pain than the American, right? And so the American is now a lot more pressure before the Iranians. Okay, so that's the second step. That doesn't work either. So now you move to a third step, which is you destroy the state's capacity to deliver basic services, which means water, food, and electricity. So when Trump says, I will destroy their civilization, what he's really saying is, I will destroy their power plants, right? Because energy is a source of civilization, right? So the next step that we can expect, which has not happened yet, but there are signs that it will happen, is the United States will target its missiles at the Iranian power plants to supply electricity to the local population. The theory is that if you do that, then people will not be able to bear the pain, and they will revolt. Exactly.
Wow. So that's, man.
proxies are now able to exert a lot more pain on the global economy, right? So the Iranians are able to close extra moves, and the proxies who are they saying, like Hezbollah, Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and then you have the militia, the Shia militia in Iraq, right? So the logic of this is by closing off.
Time 21 minutes 49 seconds. Distance 1 mile. Average pace 21:49 per mile.
Moves, Iran is denying the world 20% of the global supply of oil. But now the Houthis are able to close off the Bab el-Mandab Strait, not another 7%. So putting more pressure on the global economy. And now if Lebanon is able to close off the Suez Canal, or put pressure on the trade over here, that's more pressure, right?
Hope there's not too many bugs back here
Yeah,
today.
but as you can see, this escalation matter is coming up really fast, right? And the real fear is that the Americans will be under such pressure that they use actual nuclear weapons. And then we could be looking at nuclear war and civilization collapse. That's what we're through for sure. No, civilization.
Professor Sean, what are we gonna do?
Nuclear gone?
Yeah.
We're good then.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. All right, yeah. All right.
I'll see you on the other side.
That's right, yep.
See you in the big H.
That's right.
Dude, I believe you go to heaven. This is something I heard that's kind of cool. Just to take a break from the war stuff for a second. If you go to heaven, and thank you for explaining this, and thank you for discussing the escalation ladder with us.
Yeah.
If you go to heaven, that when you get there, your friends are there,
Yeah.
right? All your friends that you knew from here, your family, but they all like work in different places. So you might go to like a Jersey Mike's in heaven, and your brother or your ex-girlfriend could be working there. And once you lock eyes with each other, you have memories of like things that you knew from this period here.
Yeah.
But it's brand new there. So it's like you get to go everywhere and find your old friends and stuff. So it'd be pretty cool. Like you could be somewhere in like Frederick Douglass or whatever, could be a park ranger, or Xi Jinping or something could be, he could be working at an ice cream stand,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it could be kind of cool anyway.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just letting you in on a little bit of BTS heaven lore.
Great.
It would be impractical for America to end up in a nuclear war, though.
Yeah, I don't think it will happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't think that will happen?
I don't think it will happen.
What stops that escalation ladder from going forward?
Yeah, okay. So, again, if you want to use string theory, step back and ask yourselves why this war is happening. Okay? Once you figure out what the motivations of the players are, then you can figure out how far this goes. Right? Because the players are trying to win. And they're going to try to win in a way that is the least harmful or the easiest way to win. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because it's kind of like poker. So say if I got an okay hand, I might bluff a little in the beginning or go in on a few blinds or something, but I'm not going to probably raise it to the end of the line because I know what I have.
Right.
I'm going to wait for another hand.
Right. So let's look at game theory and ask yourself, who are the major players in this game and what do they want?
Okay.
So you have the United States, of course. You have Iran. You have Israel. And I would say the fourth major country is Saudi Arabia. Okay.
And why are we even in this conflict?
That's right. So we're trying to figure this out.
Because that's been a big question in America, especially among a lot of my peers. Why are we there? Why are we putting our troops there? It doesn't seem like we have a real interest. I know there's rumors of weapons of mass destruction again.
Yeah.
There's rumors of nuclear weapons, albeit. but I think a lot of people, feel like we've fallen for that trap before.
Yes.
In Iraq.
Yes.
And in Kuwait.
Yes.
And that it could just be the same sort of fool's errand again.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a great question. Like, why did America
We are.
attack Iran?
We are.
The failures of Afghanistan and Iraq.
When also Trump, our president, said that we would not go to war with Iran.
That's right. That's right. So
What do you think's happening?
yeah. So I want to refer you to something called a Clean Break Memo. Okay.
Clean break memo?
Yes, it's really important we understand this. We understand what's going on. The Clean Break Memo. Maybe you could bring it up. Clean Break Memo, written in 1996. Okay. And so let me give you some background. So Bill Clinton is in office, and Bill Clinton is obsessed with peace in the Middle East. And
Because it rhymes, probably.
Probably, yeah. And the Israelis have decided that now is a good time for a two-state solution. The reason why is that throughout
Come on.
Arab nations around it because of the Palestinian issue.
Right.
And the idea is that if Israel is to have security, it needs to resolve the Palestinian issue. It needs to give the Palestinians its own state. And then once that happens, then the Arab nations can resume diplomatic relations with Israel, trade peacefully, and the Middle East will be prosperous and peaceful. And first have to resolve the Palestinian issue.
Because a lot of the Palestinians are Muslim, right?
That's right.
And a lot of the surrounding areas
Are also
around,
Muslim.
around Israel are also Muslim.
That's right. So they're sympathetic towards
Their kind.
Muslims, right? So, for example, Saudi Arabia, the royal family said that as long as the Palestinian issue is not resolved, we will never ever have peace. Okay? So it's what we call the Oslo peace process.
Yeah, the Oslo Accords, right?
That's right. That's right. And the majority of the Israeli population was in favor of this. And the main new leader was spearheading the movement in Israel is Isaac Rabin.
What's the name?
Isaac Rabin. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Isaac.
Isaac Rabin.
Isaac Rabin. Isaac Rabin.
Yes.
Isaac Rabin.
And he was determined to have eternal peace with Palestine. So he's off this issue once for all, like in a city.
So he and Clinton were aligned with figuring this
That's
out.
right. That's right. And they also had Arafat to help them out as well. And the Arab nations, especially Saudi Arabia, were very supportive of this process. But there was one person who was opposed to the peace process. His name is Benjamin Netanyahu. And he assembled a team of people, many Americans, who built up a new policy for him called the Clean Break Memo. And what the Clean Break Memo says, it's a very short document, only about 1 page. What it says is screw peace because our neighbors are Arabs, and they only understand power. So you want peace, you don't hate, you don't compromise. You hit them hard, you keep on hitting them hard until they respect you. Okay? So there are 3 major pillars to this strategy. Come quick. The first is go after the Palestinians hard. Don't give them land, don't compromise them, teach them respect. Okay? Show power.
Got some construction going on up here.
Number 2 is you have to rejuvenate the Israeli economy by adopting Syria, and it calls for regime change in Iraq. Okay, so the Clean Break Memo.
Okay, that's great. A new strategy for securing the realm, commonly known as the Clean Break Report, is a policy document that was prepared in 1996 by a study group.
Ain't nothing in there for you, little boy.
Netanyahu, then Prime Minister of Israel. The report explained a new approach to solving the security problem in the Middle East, emphasis on Western values. That means, I guess, more like capitalistic values. It is simply criticized for advocating a policy of on the same power in Iraq.
Painting these lines.
Oh, so that's interesting that they thought that, and that he was still able to climb the ranks.
Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah. But not only him, but Richard Pearl was also so we need to understand what the English level really is. Okay? And what it really is a blueprint for the greater
Set.
project. And the Jerusalem project is a belief among certain Zionists that the entire Middle East belongs to Israel.
And just to be clear, this isn't Jewish people. We're talking about the Israeli government and extremist views, right?
That's right. It's not necessarily a Jewish person. Zionist is someone who believes in the supremacy of
Okay, so a Zionist is someone who believes in the supremacy. We'll look it up. Okay, because I did determine. I have talked about it before. I probably talked about it before, Tom, but I don't know if we've ever looked it up. Zionism is an ethno-cultural national movement that emerged in the late 1960s there for establishment of the Jewish homeland. What is ethno-cultural nationalism? Ethno-cultural
Morning.
ethnic nationalism is a form of nationalism and it's a nation nationality or defined as something ethnicity. Yeah, what does that mean? Ethno-cultural nationalism?
what it really means is there's certain people, Zionists, who believe that God promised this land the Jews can own the Jews. Therefore, only Jews should be in this land. And therefore, the Palestinians have a right to be there. Therefore, Jews a solution goes against the will of God.
Got it.
That's what it really means.
Okay, wow. But what about people who just believe that Jewish people deserve to have their own place as well? Is that Zionism?
So there are different forms of Zionism. Okay? And what I'm referring to is extreme form of Zionism that has taken hold over Israel. Okay, you remember, in the 1990s, everyone, the vast majority of people were supportive of the Jewish institution. They wanted to use the Arab.
In the 1990s, is that true? Let's bring that up. Let me see. In the 1990s, the Israeli public was deeply divided rather than in full agreement regarding the solution. While the signing of the Oslo Accord in 1993 generated strong initial hope and fluctuating majority support for the process at various points, the substantial portion of the population, including right-wing political factions and the settler movement, opposed partition. So there was some support for it. Okay. Okay, so you have this extreme, you have an extreme group.
Yeah, the settlers basically.
Okay, so the group you're talking about is an extreme group that that's supporting this clean break.
That's right.
Right? That wanted a greater Israel.
That's right.
That's an extreme group.
That's right. And they were led by Netanyahu, became prime minister in 96 to implement the Greater Israel project. And in power for the past 20 years. And look at what's been happening in the Middle East, right? The Iraq War. And after that, the invasion and regime change in Libya, in Syria, and now there's a conflict in Iran. This consistent between region nationalism. And what is amazing is that this transcends politics. Both Democrats and Republicans are participating in the implementation of the Jewish family.
You mean American Democrats and American Republicans?
That's right. So, George W. Bush launched the war against Iraq. It was Obama who supported regime change in Syria and Libya. So on the party, basically. What I want to do now is show you a video. This is important to watch this video together. Okay? So, the video is in Western Park. And it's talking to the this is after 9/11. And so 9/11 was traumatic again for Americans. And the assumption was that the U.S. military would take vengeance against Taliban and Al-Qaeda by attacking Afghanistan. But what the party says is, no. We're not just going after Afghanistan. We're going after 7 countries. And let's do what it says.
So this is how do we know this is a theory or is this a fact? That's what I'm asking.
Oh, it's all fact. This example is a fact. And what's the part saying there?
Okay, and this is U.S. Army General Wesley Clark, right?
Right now, we're talking to information about what happened after 9/11.
Okay.
long one.
Oh, I know.
Phenomenal.
Have a great day, guys.
37 minutes, 29 seconds. Distance, 2 miles. Average pace, 18:44 per mile.
So you're saying that this is part of the clean break?
That's right. That's right. Because how else are you saying what's going on? And again, this is General West Park is access to confidential Pentagon communication, saying that right after 9/11, they already decided to go to war against the entire Middle East. Finish with that.
Yeah, no, not us.
Yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah. So, but we've gone, but have we gone those things that they said in that we attacked and we've gone to war with those places?
Yeah.
Places you listed?
So, Syria, right? That's done. Libya, Iraq. Yeah.
Back to the
So that's last year. This is part of all.
So why do you feel like, so do you feel like America's working at the behest of the Israeli government of Netanyahu's choices? Well, like, what do you think that relationship is? Well, is it true that you would say that America's working at the behest of what they want, right? Or is this what we want? Yeah, so again,
Sorry.
Faster than I run. I'm struggling.
You're good. Thank you. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather.
Now with the war in Iran, we don't even know why Trump attacked Iran. And you put it down like this is a long time, they would not do so. So what's going on here, right? And like, if the United States was not doing anything as a history deal, then how can we explain what's going on, right? Now, what we now is just going to explain why it's not one, right? Because, so, this would be hard for American president, right? So, but like, Winston Park says, we need to remove 7 nations in 5 years. They're doing that, right? Iran is the bottom box. And the idea is their Zionists want to create a resource project. And the project is that Israel will dominate the Middle East. And only if Israel does that will Jews have security in the Middle East. Okay?
now, weren't they secure before? Like, I don't understand why they weren't secure.
Right. So they were secure because the Palestinians were revolted against them. The Palestinians felt that they were being oppressed, that their land was stolen from them, and so they were engaging in terrorist activities against the Israelis, bus bombing, including airplane hijacking.
But why wouldn't Israel just figure that out instead of go this other big route? It seems like, you know what I'm saying? It seems like it's me figuring out something with a neighbor as opposed to battling the whole town. It would seem like more at my behest, like a wiser choice to just figure out something with my neighbor.
Right.
Coming up behind us.
It's kind of crazy. And your brother believes that this house is not their house,
Sit.
it's our house, which was stolen by this other family. And so we have a right to go take it back from them.
Morning.
And we don't feel too much basically what's that.
Boy.
And these are parents from 70, right? Okay. These are people who go against Israeli national law and go and forcibly take the Palestinians to their home. Even if it's against Israeli national law. Yeah.
Okay, so now you're showing me what you did.
So let's just take what we know and draw a picture on the conclusion. This is game here. This game, okay? If you believe that this land was given by God, it says so in the Bible, okay? And you believe that it is Israel's destiny to dominate the Middle East. Your real enemy
Sit.
is not Iran, right? Who's your real enemy? Because the United States provides security guarantees to many Arab nations. Saudi Arabia is protected by the United States. And Saudi Arabia is part of the international project. Egypt is protected by the United States. Egypt is also part of the international project, right? So what you need to do is remove both Iran and states from the equation. And the best way to do that is you have to go to war against Israel. Right? And then Israel is allowed to make sure that. But that's game theory that way. Yeah.
But how would you, like, how would America, I mean, our country's way over here, and I know that's like, I know that doesn't mean everything, that we have a geographical space, but how would we, like, how would we,
Well, we would be the United States is defeated. If this war becomes unpopular at home, then the people will be bold, and that forces the American military to retreat back to the American border.
okay, so then we would lose that war, but we wouldn't lose our country though.
No, but yeah, I mean, the United States would win this country, but it would just be empire.
Oh, so we would completely remove ourselves from the Middle East. You're saying remove ourselves from all of our allies, and then Israel would have the ability to control them. That's right. So why doesn't Israel just go control them and not even involve them?
Because Saudi Arabia and the other Asian countries have a lot of money. That's in exchange for their
One thing that has scared me, and I've heard people, a lot of people talk about it, is like a lot of like the technology and stuff that was used in Palestine, and a lot of it inside of there, like drones, talk about certain stuff just right down to the body, like in a way that was like very logical that you were the ones that all the reporters who killed there, so that they were out of the world over there. One of those things, especially with technology, and then you start to see the surveillance stuff happening in America, it starts to make you think, well, why wouldn't they come here? Like, you know, like, that's certainly a fear I hear a lot about, that we're going to become in this surveillance state, and then the same thing is happening elsewhere.
Seems to be.
Bible, the Old Testament, is fundamentally about the relationship between God and the social people, the Jews. And after rise, the Jews turn away from God. So, for example, when Moses was leading the people from exile in Egypt to the promised land, the people totally worshiped an idol. And the first commandment is not worship false idols. So God had to punish them by making them wander the desert for 40 years. Okay? And this is a theme out of the Old Testament where Jews suffer because they turn away from God. So the most stunning event in the Bible is the destruction of the first temple, where the Babylonians come in and destroy the first temple. And in the Bible, the book is Jeremiah. What Jeremiah the prophet says is, the Babylonians are not the enemy of God. They are the tool of God to punish the Israelites for turning away from God. Okay. Right? So you just extend the logic. The logic is this. Why did the Holocaust happen? Not because of Hitler, but because the Jews turned away from God.
And so there's groups that believe that?
That's right. So at this point in history, the year 1900 is when Zionism comes to being. Most Jews think Zionism is retarded. I'm a Jewish person living in Germany, living in the United States, living in England. I'm assimilating into society. I'm a professor. I'm a doctor. I'm doing well for myself. I'm secular. I have lots of friends who are Christian. Secular means non-religious. Okay. Right? So it's like, why would I go to a desert called Palestine? This is called Palestine, where there are also it's a Christian desert. Right? So only about 50% of the global Jewish population at this point, this is like actually support the idea of Zionism. Okay. Right? So the Holocaust had to happen in order for the Jews to hold the covenant of God. Because the Jews were created as God's people. They are like a nation. They are meant to show the created God, and therefore be virtuous and be the moral
Good morning. Good boy.
Believe that the Holocaust was supposed to happen because the people in the Bible had turned away from God.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
So,
Yes or no?
okay, so let me clarify what the belief position is. Turn to Israel, create the Israel project, which is the promised land, and then build the third temple, which will be the house of God. So the purpose is to force the union between the Jewish people and God. When that happens, then the world will end, and it will be paradise forever. So there must be three things must happen for this world to end. Okay? The first thing that must happen is
Time, 51 minutes, 21 seconds. Distance, 3 miles. Average pace, 17.07 per mile.
therefore that is because God is that God promised them the land that they come out and free like that. As a promise. And the people of this land, they must be loyal to God. So for God to return, first of all, he promised to protect. Okay, so the first thing is there is public coverage. The second thing that has happened is all the people must return to Israel and repent. Meaning, if you don't believe in God, you have to do the fact. You're homosexual, you're Jewish, you better like learn how figure it out. Yeah, you know, start liking this, man. So that's the second thing. The third thing is the third temple must be built. That's where God lives. But the problem is the site of the third temple is now where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is the third holiest site in the Muslim world. So if they destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque in order to build the third temple, this would trigger a war between Jews and the Muslims. So these are three things that must happen before the
Okay. So, but you're not saying that's going to happen. You're saying that if you look at that, that's according to what?
That's according
Morning.
society around the world. It's society for the world. And that's why we're seeing a lot of how else to explain why the United States is attacking Iran for no particular reason.
I mean, it's definitely, look, I think a lot of people believe that there's some involvement there, but I think, after that, it's like, yeah, you kind of don't know why. A lot of it's like questions, but you don't get a lot of information. Sometimes, like, you'll ask political figures stuff, why are we so embedded here? And a lot of people don't have an answer. So I think that's the part that's kind of alarming. And I think that's also the part when you don't get a lot of clear information, that's when a lot of, like, conspiracy theories, different ideas, uncertainties, ideas like this even start to take more shape because you don't know. You're not getting information from people who should know. So I think it's like, I do understand how people can start to, it makes perfect sense how people can start to believe things, how people can start to look into things, because there's no place to get real news anymore. There's no place to get the information.
Yeah, and a lot of things that are happening right now just defy human logic. So everyone's looking at all folks like, the war is lost already. Just make peace with Iran. Get out of there. And what Trump is doing is doing tackle. Like one day he's like, we're gonna end civilization, and the other day he's like, let's make peace, guys, let's just be friends. And the next day he's like, no, I'm gonna nuke you now. And he's like, oh, you know what? I didn't really do that. It's just weird.
Yeah, it feels bizarre. It feels pointless, but it matches with everything feels bizarre right now.
And like, the way that Trump's behaving right now goes against his character. Because in the 90s, he was a real estate developer, he was a business person, right? He understood, like, if you do business, you have credibility. You can't flip off. He's like, everyone will be scared of you.
I agree. That's actually a really good point. I mean, even when he was running cops, every other thing, it seemed like he knows exactly what he's talking about. It seems like he knows exactly where he's standing.
So it's just really weird situation where how the United States is behaving in the Middle East, it goes against American interests, and the way that Donald Trump is behaving, it goes against his character. He's never behaved before.
You mentioned a little bit ago about secret society. Yeah, right. Can you take me into some of that and how you said that that's some of the worst
Sit. Sit.
World. And the money is basically that, right? So the problem is that pressure on capital is a game, and it's a game, right? You're just trying to maximize your profit. You're trying to beat others in the stock market. And in any game, there's certain ways to win. Right? And so like how do you win every single game? The answer is cheat. Okay? You play by the rules, you work hard, and you play fair, you're a sucker. Okay? You inspire others to break the game in your favor. Okay? And that's what we have in society. Right? Because to win in capital, you need three things. First of all, you need access to information. You need to know more things than other people know. The second thing you need is communication. You need your people to form government in order to create policies that favor you. The third thing is you need coordination, conspiracy, in order to outcome the law. So, example, is the Rothschild family. The Rothschild family is one of the most wealthy families in the world, which is a secret network of people that are without work. So, in the 15th, the woman was got a money. And Rothschild back to England on a Corvette, which is a fast ship. Then what happened is rumors spread that the English lost the war, and now there's tremendous fear. And that wasn't true. It was not true that they won. But the first rumor that they lost the war with the plan of Rothschild where people were Well, you do so through transnational networks. And throughout history, there have been 3 major transnational networks in Europe. The first is the Freemasons, the second are the Jesuits, and the third are the Jewish diaspora. And at some point, they figured out, why don't we work together? The Illuminati. Yeah,
I've heard about it.
Yeah.
Blackbirds always talk about this, man.
yeah, the Illuminati.
Hey guys, the Illuminati is a name given to several groups, both real and fictitious. Historically, the name used to refer to the Bavarian Illuminati, an enlightenment era secret society founded on May 1st, 1776. The Illuminati, along with Freemasonry and other secret societies, were outlawed through edicts by Charles Theodore. And subsequent use, the Illuminati has been used in reference to various organizations alleged to be a continuation of the original Illuminati. These organizations have often been used to conspire to control world affairs by mastermind, events, and planned agencies, government, corporations, power, and
I mean, at the end of the day, if transnational power controls the world, you need societies to win the game.
Got it. So in addition to there being countries, there's these different countries.
They're above countries.
But they're above countries.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they'll have members of different countries that are part of that.
Right.
Part of
So
it.
think of Jeffrey Epstein, right? So everyone thought that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent. He's a bomb Mossad.
Dang.
Yeah.
Do you believe that Jeffrey Epstein's still alive?
I don't believe that. Yeah, because
Do you think he died in the jail cell?
I guess he is. He's kind of a...
What is the basic code for the Illuminati? Do you think you have a code?
That's a good question, okay? So, which of these societies, you remember, like, societies are just a magical outcome of the game of transnational capital. We have, like, many different societies in place. And so, which societies have the greatest advantage? The answer is, those who practice eschatology have the greatest advantage.
Eschatology?
Right, eschatology is the belief in that God will end the world at some point. Okay? And so why is it that eschatological societies are superior to other societies? And the reason why is they're able to channel the religious energy of billions of people. So why we're having war in the Middle East? It's not just society. It's also the fact that you have tens of millions of Christian Zionists, Christian evangelicals who support Israel, right? So if you're an investor, there are 3 ways to make the most money. The first is war, second is revolution, and the third is religion. So these societies, through the eschatology, are always supporting war, revolution, and religion. Because if you're a millionaire, when you invest your money in the stock market, if you're a trillionaire, you invest your money in war, revolution, and religion.
Do you think that sometimes it's kind of a is it like, you think of it all like that, right? Doesn't it feel pretty dark?
It is dark. But once you actually study the eschatology, when you study the religion, it actually gives you hope. Because what motivates these people it's not power, it's faith, it's their accelerations. They believe that God has a plan. And all I'm doing is helping God accelerate through this plan.
Oh my gosh, dude, what the heck? So that's part of some people's faith. They believe they have a strong enough faith that they believe that what they're doing is helping to accelerate it.
That's right. And that's why things are happening so fast.
I mean, it does, yeah. Because things are happening so fast.
Yeah.
It's like, what is it's happening so fast?
Yeah.
So how does this end?
I mean, that's kind of dark. But,
Maybe this thing needs to be continued.
yeah.
But
well,
I pray that is happening because we don't know that's going to happen, right?
They put their faith in God, we should put our faith in God.
Amen. Yeah, that's my faith.
Yeah.
Amen, brother. We just have to keep our faith where we can. We can control what we can control. And it's always, if that's the case, it's always been part of something. You know, and it's like, all we can do is do what we can and try our best by our compass, right? That's right.
Yeah. Jesus. Believe in Jesus.
Yeah. Amen. You're Chinese?
I am. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Just making sure. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure if you are or not. What's some people? Has anybody ever said they thought you were a plant? They thought
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
Okay, so now and then,
Because you'd be a good Chinese asset.
yeah. Well, there are people who believe I'm the Antichrist. There are people who believe that I'm in my Chinese classroom with my whiteboard. My whiteboard is magical, so I can actually, like, direct the course of an event with my whiteboard. I'm just there, and I'm just like, I want more, and I want, you know, and I'm like, I'm not the Antichrist. All right, I swear to you, I'm not the Antichrist. Okay, I love being Chinese spy, but I'm not the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of that, speaking of China, what is China's relationship right now? Where do they play a role? Because you didn't factor them into this at all.
China looks at what's happening, and they're like, what is going on? What the hell are you guys doing? That's China.
Do you think that they're hyper worried? Do they have a lot of intelligence assets that are over here working in the Middle East? What do you think's going on? I'm sure because they're a world power. They're going to be concerned and involved.
Yeah. So the problem with China is that Chinese are not religious. It's almost impossible for Chinese to appreciate what's happening in the Middle East.
But they're capitalists, though.
They're capitalists. They want this war to end as soon as possible because they want trade. Chinese don't want to war. They trade. And so everyone's trying to systemically view.
But historically, China, there's been war in China.
Well, there's war within China, but China doesn't really go out and invade the way that the United States does.
What is America's current relationship with China? Do you feel like I've had friends recently say that they think the safest place to move in the world right now is China.
Yeah, I think that what's happening is a domino effect. When war in the Middle East starts out of control, it engulfs everyone. So
Time, 1 hour, 5 minutes, 32 seconds. Distance, 4 miles. Average pace, 16:23 per mile.
Like a World War III?
yeah, and it's like total war.
And what would the size be?
It would be chaos. So the idea is that the world will break out into regional wars. So imagine in Europe, NATO is fighting Russia and Ukraine, right? And the possibility that Russia takes over the whole thing, Latvia, Lithuania, and they even attack Poland. Right? Imagine all of Europe without place. You move over to the Northeast, and
Morning.
everyone's at
Good, how are you?
China is talking to Japan, and North Korea is talking to South Korea. The real danger in East Asia is not China, it's actually North Korea. Because North Koreans have actually nothing to lose. They're kind of crazy, and they're brave. So North Korea can send soldiers to fight in Ukraine. They fight to death. Is that true? Yeah, 10,000 North Koreans.
10,000 North Korean troops in Ukraine?
Yeah, in Ukraine, I think. They fight to death. The reason why is they're captured, their family members back in North Korea. Welcome to the dictatorship.
North Korea continues to expand its military support for Russia and Ukraine and weaponry. Pyongyang is now said to deploy missiles in Russia. By the end of 2024, Ukraine, the United States, and South Korea estimated that around 10,000 to 12,000 North Korean soldiers have been sent to Russia, and that's in 2024.
That's right. So they're going to reach 30,000.
I've heard you talk about the grand bargain
Yes.
with China. That's between America and China.
That's right.
Tell me a little more about that.
Right. So there are two nations that totally benefit the most from global economic order. They are the United States and China. The United States obviously is in control of the US dollar, but China as well, because China is able to have a problem as global trade. Right? So both are invested in current global order. And so the idea of the grand bargain is that they on the Taiwan issue, where basically China and Taiwan signed an agreement where they reconcile politically, and the United States withdraws from East Asia and allows China to maybe dominate East Asia.
Okay, understood. That outline, so that's something that China would want, probably just a little bit more assurance that they don't have to do America.
That's right. But also, like for China, Taiwan is a huge political issue because there's something called a central humiliation, where China was pumped up in the 19th century by Western powers, and having Taiwan back in the fold of the motherland would be a tremendous political achievement. It would mean the reunification of the motherland, the creation of the motherland. That's something that China would pay a huge price for. And right now, the United States needs China to buy more U.S. treasuries. So that's the idea of the grand bargain.
What do you think's going on with America right now? Do you feel like we're still the world's economic superpower?
It's an apparent decline. It's like I'm just walking the streets of Los Angeles, and which says that U.S. presidents may not sit for more than 2 terms. But there's loophole. Loophole is, imagine for 2018, John Jr. is a Republican ticket, and Donald Trump is the vice president. They win, and then John Jr. he resigns, and then Donald Trump is now the president again. And
That you think that's gonna happen?
I'm just talking about the this could happen. But also there's the World Powers Act, where America's at war, and so there's a certain constitution, which is what happened in Ukraine.
That's why Ukraine could not have an election.
Right, because they're at war.
And if they could have an election, would they still elect Zelensky? There's a lot of darkness out there.
Yeah.
What are some positives that you see? What's a positive way that you see out of some of this? And please have an answer for me.
Yeah, definitely. Love, God. I mean, that's why we're here. We're here to experience things that we can experience anywhere else, because we're eternal souls. Like, what's freaky is that this is only, the thing that we're experiencing here is only a journey and a eternity of experiences. And that we're here to experience things that are unique to this world. And what's that unique to this world is family, like having children. And love, exactly.
Hugging somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah, doing your best.
Yeah.
Being supportive, sharing.
So if you just focus on what's happening to geopolitically, you go insane. You literally go insane. Are you insane yet? I'm a family. Okay. So I have a wife who loves me. So I want to tell you sort of how my wife and I met, and you can appreciate how much we love each other. Okay. So many people about 10 years ago, and I'm about 40, and this is like the darkest moment of my life.
What was going on?
Well, I was unemployed. I had no place to stay, and I was depressed. I thought that life was hopeless. And I literally believed that my wife was an angel sent by God to show me that love is possible. So that one day I'd be sitting across from you, telling the world that love is possible. And
Morning.
asking them for your dick size or your integrity.
Pausing workout. Workout completed. Time 1 hour, 13 minutes, 41 seconds. Distance 4.55 miles. Average pace 16:11 per mile.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it is better than asking how much.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you found that you got somebody.
Yeah.
Because you were 40 and you didn't think you were gonna have someone.
That's right. I thought that I was my life. I was adrift. I thought that life was pointless.
What were you doing? Were you living at home?
No, I was literally living from place to place. My suitcase. I had no place to live. I was unemployed.
Well, don't they give you a job in China? Like, tell me a little bit more. What is it like in China? Like,
Yeah.